So I had this whole thing that I was going to say about what this series is, but I don't think I should, because when's the last time we stuck with the series that we said we were going to do? I can't think of one either. Basically, we just chose 3 topics, and we're going to talk about them, and we might do this more often, so it's technically a series. Whatever. Here's the video. Now, some of you may think that onions make a boring and uninteresting video topic. I think so too. So you may be wondering why we're starting our video off with this topic, if even I don't like it. Well, it wasn't my choice. They told me that if I didn't make this part of the video, they would steal my Robux. They're holding me hostage, send. Although there are 600 to 900 species of onions, they can be summed up into 3 main parts: white, yellow, and red. I'm going to be calling the onions by their scientific name, Allium copa, for the rest of this video because my writers want me to suffer. No, I'm not. Who put that in the script? Who put that in the script? Onions are said to have many health benefits, but most of them aren't true. So for the remainder of this video, we're going to tell you which onion facts are not true and which are true in this handy little T-chart. Some people think that putting onions in your socks overnight can cure you of the flu. Well, that just isn't true. All it will accomplish is making your feet and your socks smell bad. We put this remedy in F tier. It is also said that onions can protect you from getting the bubonic plague. That's right. In the 1500s, people would put raw, cut-up onions around their horses in order to stop them from getting infected. They were obviously right, because only 25 million people died out of the 90 million that lived in Europe at the time. Oh, by the way, there's also a society dedicated to onions, so if you're interested in more stuff about onions, if you're really that bored, at the end of this video, we'll leave some links in the description. As most of you all probably know, sound comes in waves, sound waves. But have you ever seen those waves? Chances are, no. They are invisible, after all. What we can do, however, is visualize the waveform, like this. See that? That's me talking. Hello there. Now you can see my voice and hear it. How does this work? Let me walk you through it. First, we need to start with something simple. Let's try this, a sine wave. But how is that funky thing sound? Well, Chrome Music Lab actually has a really good visualization of this, but I don't really have the time to search it up. You see, I've only got about... What's that? A conveniently placed link. Hold on to your seats. Okay, here we are. If I click a note on this keyboard, it'll show me how fast the air particles need to move to make that sound. The higher the pitch, the faster the air particles. You may be wondering how this waveform comes into play. Well, if you could be patient for 1 freaking second, I could show you that if you click this magnifying glass, it'll make this particle leave a trail. That's more or less how you take this and go to this. Now that you have the basics, let's learn some fun and interesting facts. First, let's talk about active noise cancellation. You know the thing that the AirPod Pros have where they block out the sounds of other people talking and leave just your music? How does that work? It's actually pretty simple. They just play an inverted version of whatever you don't want to hear, people talking or loud sounds, and just play the music on top of that. I don't understand. What's that? I don't understand. Alright, I'll explain a little better. Let's say you have a waveform like this one. This is our people talking or whatever. If we flip it and play it, it sounds exactly the same. But if we play the inverted or
flipped
waveform over the original one, they sound nothing. There is no sound. They cancel each other out. If the original is 1 and the other one is
flipped,
so it's -1, it's inverted, you put them together and you get 0. They're actively canceling the noise of each other. That's how it works, and that's pretty cool. Moving on, here's something that's just cool to look at. So there are 4 basic types of sound waves: sine, triangle, square, and saw or sawtooth. Using different combinations of these, we can make lots of different sounds that are actually kind of mesmerizing to just look at. So I'm gonna play a few. There's actually so much more to talk about in this topic, but we don't have enough time left in the video, so if you want us to make another whole separate video on it, let us know. A causal loop is a theoretical proposition in which, by means of either retrocausality or time travel, a sequence of events. Whatever, that was boring, and I only know about 3 words from that because I stole it from Wikipedia. Sorry, teachers, but that was my primary source for this entire project. So, the Bootstrap Paradox, or causal loops. TLDR is basically a sequence of events that causes the same sequence of events to happen, usually through time travel, because that's easy to understand. Look, cut me a break. Researching this made me want to pull out my brain, take a scented candle jar, put the brain in that jar, and then hurl it off the Empire State Building. So humans' basic understanding of time is A event leads to B event leads to C event, or one event leads to another, which leads to another, and so forth. But what the Bootstrap Paradox or causal loops say is C event is the thing that caused A event to happen, so it's a loop, hence the name. So you thought that was hard to understand? Well, let's see if you could follow my example. So let's take Joey here. He gets a magical stone in the mail that he then carries with him for the rest of his life. Some 10 years later, he gets run over by a cement mixer. He would have died, but the stone saves his life. What he didn't know until this moment is the stone also has time travel magic, so he then uses it to go back in time, put the stone in his mailbox so he can find it and use it to save his life when he gets run over. See this diagram? It's a loop. Some people say that this couldn't work at all in the forms of time travel. Joey couldn't have survived the cement mixer in the first place to go back in time and give himself the stone that saved himself. Some people say that in Joey's scenario it makes sense because it's a closed loop, it's constantly happening, it will never end. They say that Joey is constantly giving himself the stone, almost dying, going back in time, giving himself the stone, almost dying for eternity, that there is no escape. That's kind of grim. The opposite of this is a open loop, saying A leads to B, leads to C, leads to A, C leads to A, then eventually C will lead to D. It will open up. It's open. You may go through the loop a few times, you may go through it 50, 1, you might go through it twice, but eventually you can leave. If you can't follow me at all and don't understand, don't worry. It's really complicated. But there are other sources on the internet if you want to look more into it, and if not, remember what Isaac Newton once said. It's a paradox. You're not supposed to understand it. Just go on with your life and stop watching YouTube videos. And remember to eat your soup.